Welcome back to another episode of Music and Madness with Tom
and John.
We're back here in the Villages, and from the beginning, John and I told you this format was going to be a little bit about music and a little bit about madness. And today we're going down the madness road. We brought in a guest. His name is Rob Mejia, and Rob is a professor of marijuana.
Cannabis Professor.
The real deal.
Yep.
Yeah, kind of hard to believe. There's about between 50 and 75 of us across the country, and I'm connected with most of them. But we actually have bona fide degrees in college, so now you can make the joke that you can major in cannabis in college, and you actually really can.
See, that's
Didn't you?
I would have graduated in college. I would have graduated instead of just doing two terms.
Failing out.
I didn't know that was an option.
Yeah.
I was a customer. I just wasn't a student of
Big
that.
customer.
So, Rob, tell us a little bit about, first of all, where are you a professor of cannabis?
So I teach at Stockton University in New Jersey. It's in South Jersey. It is a state college. We have about 8,500 students, and we are the only school in New Jersey that has a hemp and cannabis business management degree. So the students actually take 80 hours of business classes. So they know their micro, macro, their financial analysis, all that good stuff. And then they also take 8 cannabis and/or hemp classes, including an internship. So we actually give them hands-on experience. We set them up with dispensaries, cultivators, processors. They might work for an edibles company, an infused beverage company. They might do research. So they really are very grounded and very ready to go out and work once they get through the program. They can also minor in cannabis, or they can just be involved in our club. Our club had 74 members last year. We have a lot of events. It's good for networking. They meet people in the industry. We have trivia, raffles, music, all kinds of stuff like that. If anybody brings, quote, samples on campus, it cannot have any THC in it. But we do get things like some CBD samples and lighters and swag and that kind of stuff.
Sure, that's cool.
So this is a state college, so there's taxpayer money involved in this, right? Is what you're saying?
Absolutely.
I'm okay with my tax dollars going there, aren't you?
Absolutely.
They piss it away in many other places. I'm good with that. Yeah.
How long have you been teaching there?
I'm going on my 6th year.
Yeah. So. A little backstory on Rob. He's married to my older sister, Beth, and he's just a great guy. I remember when Beth said, yeah, Rob took a job. He became a professor. And I said, no way. That's awesome. What's he teaching? Cannabis. And I'm like, I know they like their weed like we all do. And she said, no, really, and you had to be one of the founding, out of the 75 professors, were you one of the founding professors?
Yeah, we had one of the newest programs. And also I was one of the people that I love to network. And so when I started teaching, I felt a little bit strange that I'm a cannabis professor, but I felt like, who am I going to talk to know whether I'm teaching the right content? Am I up to date with the right resources? Is there stuff you do with your students that, I can sort of borrow from? So I started just hopping on the phone when I looked online, and I found out there were other people teaching cannabis. And I'm like, okay, I want to connect with you and find out what you're doing in your class. And that actually turned into a national cannabis curriculum convening. So I gathered roughly 40 cannabis professors across the country from schools like UVA, NYU, Wake Forest. I mean, we had such a good list of professors. And we all got together for 2 days and talked about what we taught in class. And that was really a big kickoff to show that, we were not alone. We had rigor in our program. We actually were responding to what businesses wanted. And it really turned into such great relationships, and I still keep in touch with a lot of those professors all the time. And I did 4 of those convenings. So for 4 years, I gathered all those people for 2 days, and we all talked about what you teach in class. It is kind of funny because there are a lot of students that come in, and they have backgrounds in cannabis. We call them either legacy operators or traditional or enthusiasts or underground or something like that.
Entrepreneurs, for sure.
But the nice part is that they really have a devotion, an interest, a curiosity about cannabis. And then our job is to turn them into professionals. So if they've been, dabbling in their basements and growing, they have been learning about what the plant responds to. And then they get to ask questions from us, and we get to talk about, different fertilizers or soil amendments and the differences in how they grow and why you want certain strains and all that. So, I mean, I do joke and I say, well, we kind of take a little bit of the fun out of it, but we also put the scientific rigor in there so that you're ready to go out into a multi-billion-dollar business.
Sure.
And to contribute.
Yeah.
It's like being a backyard mechanic and getting a job at the dealership.
That's right. You're
Only
golden.
with weed.
Yep.
I'm just, there's a lot that's happened with marijuana in the last 10 years and an awful lot that's happened probably in the last 5. We live down here, and this is a state that you can't legally have recreational marijuana, but medical cards are available, and
Yep.
they give you a medical card out if you have a pulse, basically. So
Yeah.
they're everywhere. I mean, it's everywhere. In this age group as well, these people grew up on it. They were beginners. Now they're elders.
The age group's unbelievable. Moving down here as a younger guy, every dude on my golf, they all smoke weed. Everyone smokes weed down here. It's crazy, and it's all the 65, the 70-year-old guys. They all, everyone does it. And it used to be the gateway drug. Don't touch it. Don't do it. Now it's just so accepted everywhere, even in Florida where it's not legal.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the nice part is that information is coming out that it can be part of a healthy regimen. So if you look at it as part of your health and wellness, and you do your research and you employ responsible consumption, you can actually make cannabis part of a very healthy lifestyle. And I think
it's like a vegetable.
I wish my mother did it, because people like that need it. Honestly, like people that are stressed out and it's a good thing. And people in the real older generations, like, they're scared of it. But the 60s and 70-year-old guys, man, they got it down. They play golf on it. They play pickleball on it. They know the strains.
Yeah, the fastest growing group of users right now is people 65 and over. And a lot of that is because they're realizing all the medical benefits. And then also they're realizing that there is a part of cannabis called CBD, which does not get you high. And there's people in that older group that don't want to get high. So you have THC, and that gives you the euphoric effect that some of us really enjoy. And then you have CBD, and that really helps you relax, helps you sleep, helps with inflammation, and does not get you high. Then there's a lot of people that use a combination of either one of those. So looking at the medical aspects of it, that's part of it. Also, a lot of people have realized that things we were told as we were growing up were just flat not true.
Sure.
That we tried it, and we had a very different experience than what they were telling us. And yes, we did not become users of other products. We did not develop schizophrenia, all kinds of things like that they used to tell you and warn you about and try to scare you about
100%.
in your DARE classes and all those things.
Yeah.
So I'm glad those myths are gone. And Florida actually has a great medical program. So they have over 900,000 people that have their medical cards.
Oh, yeah.
What's the population?
I don't know, but there's
Let's
100,000 in the villages that have it. I know that much.
Yeah, there's a lot.
And now we can get my wife loves the drinks. They put her to bed at night, the CBD drinks. Like, we can buy them at the liquor store. You can't buy those in Massachusetts at the liquor store, but you can buy them down here, which I never understood.
Yeah, that's one of the loopholes. So cannabis is also, one of the plants is called hemp. So cannabis, very simply, is a plant grown for different purposes. So you can grow it as hemp, and from hemp you can get the CBD oil, or you can make a lot of industrial products. So you can make paper, apparel, clothing, biodiesel fuel.
Sure.
I mean, it just goes on and on and on. Or you grow it for the oil, and basically the oil is what ends up in the drinks. Because hemp has something called Delta 8. So Delta 9 is what THC is.
Yeah.
And Delta 8 is a little bit like if you have beer versus light beer. Still gives you a lot of the euphoric effects. For some people, not as much paranoia. But the people who grew hemp, which is nationally legal, so you can ship across state lines, as long as you have a license, you can grow it. Licenses are not too expensive. That they're the ones that figured out, oh, my plant has some Delta 8. I can go in a lab and make more of it. I can put that into a nice beverage. I can send that on to Andrea. She'll enjoy that during bedtime, and, all is good. So we're going to see a lot more of that being standard in bars and just at picnics and things like that.
So that's the Delta 8 is more from hemp, but it's the Delta 9. That's where the THC is in the other stuff.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, but you can still catch a buzz off from massive amounts or extra amounts of Delta 8. Is that it?
Yeah, it's actually pretty close. And there's even things like THCO and all kinds of other minor cannabinoids we won't go into now, but there are so many parts of the plant that can give you different effects.
What is the stuff that people should absolutely stay away from?
I would say if you're buying things from a smoke shop, from a gas station, If you're buying from the underground, at least know who's growing and know how they're growing. But the biggest thing is, if you're worried about safety, and you should be, you're putting something in your body, hopefully for health, that any kind of product out there has what's called a COA, a certificate of analysis. So especially if you go into a dispensary and you're asking about a product, you can say, can I see the COA? And they have to provide that to you. And that is testing that will show you potency, how much THC it has in it, how much CBD it has in it, how many of the minor cannabinoids, how much CBN, how many of what kind of terpenes, which is the smell and the flavor and the taste. What about the flavonoids? Was it grown with pesticides? All that. Those reports are very extensive. The product there is tested and safer than anything you'll find in any organic market anywhere else. So I would say the big thing is ask for a COA. If it doesn't have a COA, just pass on it.
Yeah, I would never buy any of this stuff from a smoke shop. I mean, they sell that stuff called synthetic cannabis, and you hear about that stuff on the news that's not been good for young kids and stuff like that. What would be your recommendation as far as an age where somebody would feel safe about starting cannabis?
Yeah, there is so much research about
6.
there is so much
from a guy who lost his virginity at 9. But anyway,
if you look at the research and you're very sort of strict about everything it says, you should wait until your brain is fully developed, which is about age 25. But again, I'm a realist, and which kid do you know is ever going to wait to try something that they've heard about or they want to experiment with?
True.
Till 25? Just not going to happen. So the basic guidelines that I give is, if you're going to start pretty early, make sure that it's not too often, certainly not every day, and that you're also not using things that are very high potency, like concentrates.
okay.
So between like 14 and 18, if it's occasional use, there is evidence that says it's not going to have long-term effects and you'll be fine. And it's even safer if you go to 18 and then 18 to 21. And then after that, you're pretty much in the clear. But again, the biggest thing is that if you're using too much and too often, that can be a problem.
And again, they're going to get it from wherever they get it from. And that's where that synthetic crap shows up on the market. That's
Yeah. Although funny enough, for people that buy flower, it is most often from people who have excess product, and they may have even tried to get into legal market. So a lot of things that you're going to see that are shipped in the U.S. mail. U.S. mail is the biggest drug dealer in the country.
Oh, I know. I worked at UPS. It sure was. Yeah.
Well, actually, and people prefer the post office over UPS because they don't have the poke sticks. But anyway, a lot of it comes through. So a lot of the product you're getting is coming from California. It's coming from Oregon. Sometimes comes from overseas, but it's basically states that have a lot of grows, and they have extra product. And so what do? You sell it where you can. And so a lot of it ends up in the underground. And as long as somebody is growing organically in the sun, pesticide free and all that, you're actually probably getting really good product.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing that has been going on is there's so many dispensaries that it's very competitive.
Saturated.
Yeah.
We talked about in the Boston area. You go down to the Patriot Stadium and look at the stadium. You can see 4 just in the span of a quarter mile. They're on top of each other. And is that regulated or?
Yeah, that's a state issue. So what a lot of states have done is say your municipality can decide how many licenses they want to give and where they're going to be located. So what happens is you have places like New Jersey and Massachusetts where 75% of the municipalities say, I don't want to have anything to do with it. I don't want cultivation in my town. I don't want any processing. And I definitely don't want dispensary. And so the towns that say, yes, you can come in, that's where everybody tries to go. And then you have limited real estate. So sometimes they'll say, you can build within these 6 blocks. Well, guess what? Everyone who has any real estate in those 6 blocks gets the call. And then also there's bidding wars. See, actually, you can make a lot of money on cannabis real estate if that's what you're into. But unfortunately, what it leads to is too many shops too close together, and then you have cannabis deserts in other parts of your state.
Yeah.
Well, and then they can't survive. The small town that we're from in Michigan, back visiting here a few weeks ago, there's like 8 dispensaries in a town of about 7,000 people.
Yeah.
And there's been several that have gone out of business. You see stuff on auction sites now from those people going out of business. Everybody thought, I'm going to make a fortune in cannabis. So it's not all roses for everybody, but it certainly has been a big change. And tax-wise, the states have got to be just raking it in.
25% in Mass.
Yeah, the states are making a lot of money, and then also municipalities often get an extra little kicker too.
Yep.
So in New Jersey, the cultivators and also dispensaries have to pay a 2% excise tax on what they make. And there was a report just a couple of years ago that even the small dispensaries were kicking in $150,000 to their municipality. That one of the bigger ones was kicking in nearly $4 million a year. Wow. That money is also not earmarked for anything. So if you're a mayor or a council person, all of a sudden you have money that can go to senior centers and go to roads and go to education. Unfortunately, some of the municipalities choose to put it into police enforcement or drug education, which I wish they would do more socially progressive programs, just me personally. But again, it is found money for them. So that's one big reason why the townships will say, yeah, you can come on in. And then especially if you border one of those townships and you see your citizens going in there, and of course they will, and contributing income there, it does put a little pressure on you to say, all right, let's have a business here.
Yeah, well, and the other thing about the tax money is that is the good thing that comes out of this. And locking somebody up for marijuana is just, I think most states have figured out that's foolish. It's just a waste of taxpayer money, and
yeah,
they're going to continue to do it no matter what. It's not going to stop it.
Yeah, if you look at the history of cannabis, one of the big things that's tied in is how many people have gone to jail for simple possession or distribution.
Oh, for sure, tons.
Yeah, I mean hundreds of thousands, and those are. It's not just an individual that goes. When they go in, you've broken up families, you've broken up neighborhoods, you've broken up communities, you've stopped somebody from going to college, you've stopped somebody's career, and then they have to come out and try to get themselves going again too. So it's not a simple thing to send somebody away. It really just breaks things up, and it's also a question of color. So people of color, brown and black people, are arrested at a rate of at least 4 times as much, according to an ACLU report that came out in about 2018. And in some counties, we had one county in New Jersey where it was 20 to 1. Wow. Yeah, so that tells you that people are being targeted, and again, it just ruins people's lives.
Yeah, in Michigan at one time, the 3 strikes and you're out. There were people who got caught on a felony count of weed, half a pound or whatever, and locked up for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
Absolutely insanity.
But now they have a program. We were talking earlier, a program now, if you were arrested, you go to the top of the list if you want to apply for a license, right?
Yeah.
They're like helping those people out.
Yeah, that is such a great point. So some states have taken it very seriously and have looked at social equity applicants or social justice applicants, and they've decided that because the war on drugs ruined your life or your family's life, that if you want to get in the business and you've had a conviction, your application goes to the top of the list. You also get lower fees. You get help from the state with education. So they actually want to get those legacy operators into the market and want to regulate them. They want to get the tax money. They want to give them a chance to really kind of repair what happened to them. So there are a lot of states that do things like that and also give grants as well. And I love programs like that, and I'd like to see them be more successful. But at the same time, you're also asking people who sometimes have limited education, limited access to funds, limited network, to try to develop and try to run the most regulated, one of the most difficult businesses in the world.
Yeah. Very much regulated heavily. Hey, let's switch gears here and start talking about what the different types and what the benefits are and what are the effects. And because I'm sure there's plenty of our people out there who are going to go, I'd like to try that. Maybe that helped me sleep. Maybe that would do something
Give
for
me a
me.
buzz, yeah.
Maybe I could get. Maybe I could stand my spouse a little more. But
mother, spouse.
Yeah. So anyway, tell us about the different strains. First of all, I know we have indica and sativa and hybrid. I'm going to let you take it from there.
Yeah, it's kind of a lot to digest, but it's also a lot of fun too once you start to dig in. So I did write a book called The Essential Cannabis Book. It was out in the first edition. I have a second edition coming out next year, 2026.
Nice.
And there is a whole chapter on responsible consumption. So in that chapter, basically it breaks down a couple things. One is what types of cannabis that you can get, and then how you can take it, because there's so many different forms. So to start with, there is the 2 big categories of sativa and indica. Mm-hmm. And the way you can tell the difference in those plants is if you've ever seen a real tall, skinny plant and it has the real serrated leaves. That's sativa. And those sativa plants, they like sun. It takes them much longer to grow. And
Like this.
Yeah, what,
those are,
yeah, what is that?
we'll get to that one in a second. So the sativas come from places where there's a lot of sun, like South Africa. There's a city called Durban. And so one of the most famous strains is called Durban poison. And Durban poison is a sativa plant. It takes longer to grow also, which is why a lot of dispensaries don't carry a lot of the sativas. And also, that's the one that makes people paranoid. If you're prone to paranoia, and you
Stay
start
away.
with, I would not start with that, because there's a chance you're going to get paranoid again. It won't be fun. Then the other plant really comes from places like Afghanistan, and it's shorter, it's bushier, the leaves are much rounder, and that's indica. And one way to remember indica is people call it Inda couch.
Indica. Yeah.
Because it's relaxation, it's sleep, so those are two broad categories. So sativa is like energy, creativity, art. A lot of people who play music are probably sativa fans. Indica is for people who might be a little anxious, need a little sleep at night, that kind of thing. And then the other plants are hybrids. So you have sativa dominant, so it's mostly sativa, indica dominant, and then they're all mixed. But the cannabis plant, like cannabis community, they like to share. So the plants, almost every plant you're going to find is really going to be a hybrid. There are very few pure sativas and pure
Really?
indicas.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that.
They all they share their genetics. So you can start with a room where you think I think I have 100 sativa plants. Yeah, probably not. If you really tested each one of them, you're going to find that some of them have
Mixed.
some indica in there, and then they just mix and mix and mix. Because again, I think it's a lot like the cannabis community. They do like to share. They share their genes very freely.
Yep.
So that answers a lot. So they are actually different plants. The indica and the sativa is a different plant. Yeah, I could see why they're all going to be hybrids before too long.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And although now the cultivators, the big thing is they're trying to cultivate as much THC as possible. It's kind of like a THC war, because a lot of uninformed consumers go in and they say, I want the flower that has the highest THC, because they think they're getting the best bargain, I guess. But it's a little bit like going into a liquor store and saying, give me something that has the most proof, which would probably be grain alcohol or something.
Sure.
It's like, no. So the one thing I would say is learn a little bit about the plant, learn about the methods of administration. So you have things like smoking, and still smoking is the most popular. About 40% of people will still smoke a traditional joint or in a bong or pipe or something like that. And the big reason they do that is because it's pretty immediate. It goes into your bloodstream right away, and within 2 to 5 minutes at the very most, you're going to feel the effects. So if you're somebody who wants the effects pretty quickly and you don't mind smoking, you don't have any respiratory problems or things like that, heart issues, smoking might be an option for you. Then there's vaping, and vaping is a little bit like smoking. It's more like inhaling steam, but it's a little bit more potent. But if you're worried about some of the things you get with smoke,
Toxins,
then
Popcorn lung.
vaping could be good. And also, it's very discreet. You can carry a little vape, and you can basically walk down the street and take a little puff, and no one's going to know unless they're within an inch of you.
True.
So people take their vapes to events and concerts and down the street and everything else. So I would say portability and kind of secrecy and discretion is pretty good with vapes. Then after those two categories, the next one is edibles. And edibles is huge. So edibles can include beverages too, but it's anything that you are going to eat or drink. Gummies are by far the most popular.
Yep.
Then after that, it's chocolates. Then after that, it's kind of baked goods, and then anything else you can imagine. Popcorn, chips. I mean, if it has any kind of fat in it, you can have an infused product.
Okay. There you go.
Yeah.
And the beverages are becoming more and more popular. And once we go through all the lawsuits about Delta 8, which is happening in almost every state, because of course the dispensaries are upset that it's being sold in liquor stores.
Gotcha.
Because they're not paying the same licenses, the same fees.
Sure.
It's not as
I never thought
regulated.
about that, yeah.
You're also shipping across state lines. So if you get a beverage, it can come from California. Whereas if you're running a dispensary, everything has to be in your state, produced in your state, tested in your state, distributed only in your state. So it's a very unequal playing field, and that's all getting, again, taken care of in the courts. But beverages eventually will become part of our everyday life and a huge product.
100%. Yep.
And then after that, I would say things like tinctures can be very popular. That's the oils under the tongue. And then also concentrates. You have some people who are very avid users, and they like the concentrates that you get that are sometimes like 95% potency. So that stuff is like, you don't want to mess with that as a first-time user. You got to know what you're doing. And then there's some real unique things. There's things like nasal sprays. There's like
Banaka.
the little Banaka type sprays. There's transdermals that you can put on your body. There's topicals used for joint pain. So a lot of it is do your research on what your plant is. Think about what your goal is, and then think about how you might want to consume.
Yeah,
and then be patient.
Those are like a time release, and in the you could put those on for your arthritis. Oh, geez, we used to buy those in mass for a friend of mine, and she loved it. Like and now the new ones have a time release on them where you know you put them on, so they're just more and more. Even like when you say about the beverages, I mean, when we started to buy them at the liquor store, there was a little end cap. Now there's a whole aisle.
Yeah.
And it's Cheech and Chong. I mean, you name it, they have it. And every time we buy them, we go there, weekly and buy them, and because it helps us sleep and stuff. And they say, man, 2 out of every 3 customers are coming in, and just that's what they're getting now. It's getting bigger and bigger. It's crazy.
Yeah, New Jersey just had a report, and they said that 10% of all their new customers were coming in just for infused beverages.
Yep.
Yeah, that's pretty big. So smoking it through a water pipe, a bong, what is that? Does that filter any of the stuff out, or is that?
It can. You have that. That's where you meet a lot of the kind of the stories from the underground versus what science really tells you and all that. But essentially, it does make things a little bit smoother.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
it also stores the smoke, so it's actually very efficient. So,
okay.
I mean, if you're smoking a joint, most of it just goes up in the air, and you're losing a ton of your potency.
Gotcha.
If you're putting it in a bong, you're preserving more of that, and you're getting more of more of the potency.
When we were younger, everybody had a bong of any shape, size, whether it's made out of PVC
except
pipe,
you, right?
Yeah, or ceramic or whatever. Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah, that is kind of funny because you do hear some of the stories about, of course, making pipe out of an apple. That's a classic one.
Coke
the,
can.
the Coke can where you put the dimples in it.
Yep.
That's a big
Oh,
one.
that's
Did that.
Yeah.
Been there, done that. The first book you wrote had all the recipes.
Yes.
Do you do that? Do you do that on a weekly basis? You cook with it, or?
Yeah, I'm definitely a cooking with cannabis
okay.
aficionado, and at first I was very interested in that for medical patients, in part because a lot of them can't smoke, they don't want to vape,
right,
and then also it's much longer lasting. So one very interesting thing about edibles is that it takes your body a long time to process it. So if you have traditional edibles, so if somebody gives you a brownie and it's not fast acting or not fast delivery, because there is technology that does that now with edibles. But if you take a traditional one, depending on your physiology, your individual body and all that, it can take 30 minutes up to 2 hours before it takes effect.
Well, and that's where a lot of people run into trouble because they're like,
I don't feel
anything. This doesn't do
Yep.
shit for me. This is doing nothing.
Yep.
Yeah.
The next thing you know,
been there, done that. Yeah.
Those are the 2 classic mistakes. So classic mistake 1 with edibles is starting with too high of a dose. So if I've never done edibles before, and even if I start with 20 milligrams, that might be too much for me, and I might feel very uncomfortable with that.
Yep.
So that's the one thing. Then the second thing is you're impatient. So yeah, it's 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour. I feel nothing. I'm going to take another one.
Yeah.
Well, that first one might still be hitting. Then you have the second one behind it. So as I say, it's like you get on the roller coaster ride and you're not getting off till it's done.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that your body actually turns that edible from Delta 9 into Delta 11, which is more potent. And that's going to last for 4 to 8 hours. So the experience is more intense. It's longer. So you have to be careful and find out what your dose is, because you can make it very pleasant. If you find out like what your range is and how long. So I can tell you from personal experience, I'm very close to 15 to 20 milligrams, and I'm 50 minutes up to an hour 10. And I know it's always going to be like that. And I've never
to kick in. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and I've never had a bad experience because I always stay in that lane, and I always know what's going to happen, and you can kind of feel it happening too. I describe it as like a warm blanket. Feel a warm blanket kind of coming over you, and that's when you know you're there. And then you have 4 to 8 hours of just chilling out, watching movies, relaxing, doing writing, whatever you want to do.
Sure.
So when you take 2 of those, it's more like a fire, and you're and you're going to the window to see who's in the driveway.
Who's that? Yeah. Well,
did I just hear the doorbell?
Years ago, I had my back was killing me from work, and a friend made brownies, and I said, "Oh, what the hell?" So I didn't know you were supposed to have a quarter or a high, so I popped the whole brownie, and It was actually a day I had people at my house for a Patriots game, and half an hour in, it was about probably 11:30 in the morning. Game was at 1. I took it, and then by noontime, these sucked. So I popped another one. Then I woke up at midnight. All my company was gone. Andrea had served everyone food. Didn't remember. I woke up at midnight, waking her up. What the hell's going on? Are we watching the game? What happened? Did I doze off? And so I've been there. But
So in my Essential Cannabis book, I did put a section in there about what to do if someone gets too high.
oh, really?
So there are some things you can do to mitigate that very uncomfortable high, including, interestingly enough, CBD can kind of bring you down from that THC high. So if somebody's getting
Smoke more.
too high, no drops. I'd give them CBD drops.
Really?
Yeah. So if somebody's getting too high in an edible, you can give them some CBD drops, and that would kind of help them out a little bit.
That is fun.
Chewing peppercorns is good. Keeping them hydrated. I mean, help let him go to sleep. Taking a walk, shower if they can.
I thought
if
it was
they can do
duct
safely.
tape. Duct tape to the floor and chill out for 4 hours. That's unreal. Now, what's the latest book?
So the latest, and this is my third book, is Cannabis Careers: Insider's Guide to a Budding Industry. Got to have a little fun with some of the puns every now and then.
Yeah.
But I wrote this because I've been teaching the preparation for a cannabis internship class for a long time, and basically that helps students get into the business. So we start with the different parts of business. What is it like to be in cultivating? What is it like to work in a lab? What is it like to work in a dispensary? What about delivery, distribution, et cetera? What about international tourism, cooking, all kinds of things? I mean, you would be amazed at how many jobs are connected to cannabis.
Oh, I'm sure.
Oh,
Right?
yeah.
Right now across the country, we have about 428,000 full-time cannabis jobs. The interesting thing too is that there are more of those support jobs than there are full-time jobs. So there's 500,000, 600,000 jobs that support those, and those can be things like website design. I have students who've done murals on people's dispensaries. I have people who do research. Actually, one funny industry that's done real well: video camera installation, because they mandate so many different cameras in a dispensary.
Oh, yeah.
So all of a sudden you have these people and they get contracts to work and go in a dispensary and put in 50 cameras. And then they go in and service them every so often. So,
Wow.
yeah, and that's an ancillary business.
Who
So,
would've thought,
so
yeah.
before they used to work with banks and whatever
Yeah.
else, and now all of a sudden get a cannabis dispensary. That's a lot of cameras.
But how cool is it that, like, how many kids are missing your class? I mean, you go to college and you're learning about cannabis. I mean, you can be an accountant and go, I ain't freaking going to class today. I'm sleeping in. And these kids are probably rushing to go to class. They probably enjoy it.
Probably
Love it.
the best attendance.
Oh,
of,
100%.
That's funny. I can actually say that I have a good number of students who have majored in accounting and they've minored in cannabis, and they're killing it because they get snapped up right away by cannabis companies that that need somebody with accounting backgrounds, but also know the intricacies of cannabis, because there is a special tax code for cannabis businesses called 280E. And 280E basically is a special tax for federally illegal businesses. So they have to pay a lot more taxes, and you have to file differently, and you have to pay payroll differently. You can't take normal deductions. Like you buy a printer for your shop, you can deduct it.
Yeah.
If you're a cannabis company, you cannot. So their taxes are super, super high, which is one of the big challenges for them to make money.
Yeah, it's not they're not all getting rich off cannabis. That's for sure.
No, is it?
There are some people that are, but not every dispensary's killing it. No.
No, as a matter of fact, 70% of all dispensaries are not profitable. There's a
Really?
decent number that are breaking even. There's that 30% top that are doing okay. And it often will take you up to your second year in business before you start digging out of the hole, because the amount you have to invest
Yeah.
in your licenses, in your consultants, in your application. Some people will pay $300,000 for an application
Just
to get approved to get a dispensary. $300,000.
and they could say no to you.
Yeah, before they've done anything.
Yeah.
So it takes so much to do that. And then you have to have a special safe. You have to have special security. You have to have all those security cameras. You have to, of course, have your employees and everything else. So, I mean, oftentimes it'll take you $1 million to open your door. And then from there, you're paying extra taxes. So it takes you a while to get to dig out of that hole. So oftentimes, second year is you're finally starting to make a little bit of money.
Man, you know a lot. You know the whole business. You don't know just, this is the sativa. You know everything. I mean,
Yeah.
you've it's unbelievable how much you know. You really do. You
Well,
know?
it might be a little irritating to my spouse, but she will tell you that
I doubt
that it's
it.
like 24/7. That I have so many books that I'm reading all the time. I'm doing research. I'm on
Yeah,
panels,
you can tell.
and I mean, I just love it. I don't know. It's so weird. I actually did not smoke all that much when I was growing up. A little bit in high school, and I always enjoyed it. I always had a good experience, although I was also worried about getting caught, which is
Then you met my sister.
little
Now you smoke all day long.
bit. Now I pretty much do. Actually, probably
you?
have for the last decade. I pretty much have
Really?
nearly every day, except if I go overseas. I really don't mess with it because they have a lot of different laws and all
Yeah,
that. And I don't want to mess with any of that stuff.
Yeah.
Although funny enough, I do have a good network, so I do sometimes know people overseas, and I'll connect with them. So I've been to a consumption club in Barcelona, Spain, for example. So you had to get invited to it, and that was quite an experience as well. But and I've been in Mexico City, and they have areas where you can smoke under a special tree and all that. So I do that research, and I do make connections with other professors and other people. But I definitely don't carry anything with me or that kind of
Oh,
stuff.
hell no. Have you been to Amsterdam?
No, I have not, but that is definitely on the list.
Yeah. I have friends who have gone and just said, like, yeah, we went in, we smoked a joint, and I was out for 2 days. Like, it is like potent as some of the stuff there. I mean, some of the stuff here too, obviously.
Yeah.
But I know going there as just a weed smoker, and they jump into a place and they're just
Yeah.
incoherent for 48 hours because they got something that was just so high test or something, you know?
So one very funny thing about Amsterdam is people have thought for years that it's all legal there. It has never been legal. So since the 1970s, they've just kind of turned a blind eye. The government is like, we're just not going to mess with it. So they didn't have any licensed cultivators. So any cultivators, and they knew a lot about genetics. So it's pretty amazing. They've developed some of the most amazing strains from Amsterdam, but they all delivered through the back door. And they all did it illegally. And then people that were consuming, that was also an illegal activity as well. So only this last year, they have 5 pilot programs for cultivators that got licenses and are starting to do it. But everybody thought it was legal, but it was like, no, it's live and let live. If you're not going to make a problem, we're just going to let you do your thing.
That's amazing. I always thought that's where everyone went because it was legal.
Yeah.
And it's not even legal.
Uruguay was the very first country to legalize both adult use and medical use. And they did it in part to try to stop some of the drugs that were coming in. So it was very cheap. It was $1 a gram.
Wow.
You could buy 40 grams. So for those of you who don't know metric, 28 grams is an ounce.
Yeah.
Yep.
And an ounce in a regulated market is going to cost you, in New Jersey, it's pretty obscene. We're like still $400 an ounce.
Wow.
Yeah. If you're in California, you might find some for 100, 125, something like that.
Yeah.
But anyway, so here you were, Uruguay. Your monthly allowance was 40 grams, $40. You picked it up from a pharmacy, and you were good to go.
So you talk about smoking under a tree. What is it? What kind of a tree would that be? Just like an oak tree or what?
I know that did sound kind of random, but it's very funny. So Mexico, they do have a medical cannabis program, but it's pretty small. And they were actually supposed to legalize for adult use right before COVID. They have a very interesting thing where their Supreme Court, if they rule the same way 5 times in a row, their legislature has 180 days to put it in place. And they made that ruling that cannabis should be illegal across the country, which would have made them the largest legal adult use country. And you can imagine with their tourism, what a huge boon that would have been.
Oh, yeah.
So I was very excited. But then we had COVID, and of course they got attracted with other things, and it's just been put on hold now. So it's just been kind of simmering there the whole time. But with their medical program and just with their society, what's funny is in Mexico City, they have these zones where the police have basically agreed not to hassle you if you stay within the zone.
Really?
And so funny enough, there's this gigantic tree, and as long as you stay under the canopy and you actually buy there, and the other funny thing is they won't touch the money either. So they have like this little bowl, and you have to walk up. And of course, with my, I would say, rusty Spanish, it was a little interesting to do the transaction. But you put a little money in the bowl, and then you get the product, and then you can smoke, but you have to stay under the canopy of the tree.
No
There were a
way.
couple people who were starting to get towards the edges, and they actually had somebody who was like, scoot in there.
Come on.
The funny thing was it was right near a major train station, and you could see a dozen police right there. But again, they did not mess with you if you were there, but they had these little spaces all around Mexico City where if you knew where they were, You could buy product, you could stay there and consume, no one would bother you. So again, just a kind of an interesting, funny thing of if you're not causing problems,
Yeah.
Right.
they leave you alone.
Exactly.
I know how it should be.
So you said it. Some of these places take $1 million even to get like a license or big money. Do you see that that's going to change at all with the more legalization? Is that going to get normalized or?
I don't think so, unfortunately. I think part of it is that the states see that there is so much money in it, that's a lot of it. So there's not a lot of incentive for them to lower the barriers, except maybe for social equity applicants. And then a lot of it also depends on how the state is going to put up their market. So you have some states like Oklahoma. Oklahoma was amazing. What they did is they said, okay, we're going to have, and they're only medical, by the way. They're not adult use, but they have more dispensaries per capita than anywhere and more growers. It's ridiculous. So what they did is they said, we're going to open up this application portal. And they did. And you could apply, and it was only a couple $1,000s. The application was less than 10 pages, and you got approved in 2 weeks. And you didn't have to have real estate, didn't have to show you had finances, didn't have to show you had experience in the industry, none of that. So they just gave out licenses like crazy. So, of course, some places never opened, but a lot of them did. And then they have a lot of extra cannabis. So they're actually one of the states that ships a lot. Funny enough, you might find Oklahoma cannabis in the underground. So,
Really?
that's an example of sort of making it easy. And they were betting on money down the road. We get our industry going, and then we'll get our money later on, versus making it hard, versus in limited licensed states like Massachusetts and New Jersey, where you have high population, but the municipality has to say yes, and then they have small zones that you can get into, and then it becomes a bidding war. And so, no, those states are probably going to stay about the same. So I don't see a big change in that, and I also don't think we're going to see federal legalization for a while, for at least maybe 5 years. I think maybe a different administration. There's really not a lot of pressure for it. Not a lot of interest in it.
I think there's not a lot of interest in it because the states are pretty much just doing what they want to do anyway, and
who cares?
nobody's really complaining. Florida, I know, voted it down the last time, and I don't know exactly what the reason for voting it down was, but I think something to do with not being able to have plants at home. It all had to be bought through a dispensary. Ask my parents. Yeah. Dad, the shit is not a gateway drug. I'm just telling you.
So, Rob, what's the deal with Washington, D.C.? I spent a little time there, like 6 months or so, and I know marijuana is not legal there, but you can go into a T-shirt shop and buy a T-shirt for $200, and they'll gift you a big bag of weed or an ounce or 2 ounces, but you can't buy it legally.
Yeah, it's a gifting loophole. So they do have a medical cannabis program in D.C., but they have also just said, yes, if you want to do this gifting model, they just don't bother you with it. But it is funny. So it is one of those things where, you buy merchandise, and then they do gift you product. You don't have to take it.
Yeah.
There's no special kind of limit they have to do. So it's very wide open, but they've just not bothered with it.
Yeah, like on the corner, they'd have stuff in there that have the big marijuana insignia. That means you can go in and you can buy something for a crazy price, and you're going to get your marijuana. I just thought that was
a $200 hot dog and a big bag of weed.
Exactly, and it's like that is the craziest thing. But
yeah, it is funny how states have developed different things, and actually, Florida has made it more difficult for adult use because they require a 60% approval. So last time it was on the ballot, it got close to 56%.
Yeah.
Every other state that's voted on it, that would have been in.
Yeah.
You would have had legal adult use right now if you were like many other states. Two of the states that have voted the highest percentage is Maryland at about 68%. New Jersey, we were close to 66.
Wow.
So we would have blown that out of the water. In 2026, legal adult use is going back on the ballot in Florida, by the way, people. So get in there and vote. But again, they need 60%. But right now, it's polling at about 66%.
Perfect.
So I think you all have a great chance of it being adult use coming up. And if that happens, your business is going to increase by about two and a half times to what it is now. And you're also going to see your medical rolls go down. So what happens all the time? Yeah. Once you have medical use, people get medical cards. Once it goes adult use, those numbers go down,
Sure.
down.
Indeed.
And on the
People just go to the adult use.
on the medical use, you got to take and go see the doctor every 6 months, and it's just a hijack for fees.
Yeah, I mean, they used to have in New Jersey, they had this horrible rule where you had to get recertified every 6 months, even if you were terminally ill. So you could be terminally ill.
It's that way here.
And you had to go back to your doctor, and they tell you again, well, you're still terminally ill. Here's your card.
No
Yeah,
way.
so
So
every
Like, are you
every
kidding
six,
me?
it's here too, huh?
every 6 months.
Yeah, and you paid them another $250 for them to tell you that
yeah.
you're
They just
still in the same.
Which you're saving when you go to the dispensary. Well, not in Florida, but in like Massachusetts, because you're paying 25% as a walk-in, where you have a medical card, you're not paying that tax. So
yeah.
it probably all evens out, I'm sure.
Yeah, and well, some states have a little bit more inducements for medical patients. So some you don't have to pay sales tax on it. Some they'll give you some type of discount, 10 or 20%. Sometimes you get to go to the front of the line right away. Sometimes you get priority parking right in the front. and then with a few states, they do have more potent product, which totally makes sense for medical patients. So sometimes they have half the dispensary where you can get some edibles that are up to 500 milligrams potency, versus if you're on the adult use side, you can get a chocolate bar that's 100 milligrams, and it's 10 pieces that you presumably are taking 10 milligrams at a shot.
Oh,
So
okay.
you do get more potent product in some of the states as well, and then you do get some discounts. But for a lot of people, they're like, I want my privacy. I don't want to mess with the doctor, and I'm just going to go with adult use.
Yeah, because in Mass, you can without a medical license, you can only get you can buy the gummies for 5 milligrams. That's it. But then if you have your card, you can get 10, you know, or maybe 20. I'm not.
There's also product limits too. So in New Jersey right now, as an adult use consumer, you can only get 1 ounce of product at a time. And there's a very complicated formula. So you can get 1 ounce of flour, you can get ½ ounce flour, you can get this much concentrate, this many gummies. It's a whole.
They have that here.
It's a whole crazy calculation they have to do. Whereas if you're a medical patient, you can get 3 times as much with your
So you said
purchase.
some places have like preferred parking.
Yeah.
So we have handicapped, pregnant,
Stoned.
stoned.
The stone, this sideways.
Yeah.
Well, the good part is that priority parking, they're not there for that long.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's right. They're in and out.
I mean, the funny thing about dispensaries is people don't really spend a lot of time in there. There are some that are a little more open, and they do want you to ask more questions, and they will have little consultation areas and all that. But for most people, it's funny. It's much more like a retail shop that you go in there.
Yeah.
People either already ordered, or they ask 2 or 3 questions. They hand them a bag over the counter, and they're out.
Yeah.
So it's like if you're there for longer than 5 minutes, that's a long time.
Don't tell my neighbor Dave. My neighbor Dave, I went in with him. We spent an hour in there. He asked every question. I'm like, can we leave? I thought we were just coming in to buy some weed, you know?
First time I ever went to a dispensary in Michigan, kid walks out, is like curb service, like a car hop. So he comes out with this great big thing at a menu. I thought it was at Applebee's. Oh, what is this? What is that? What is this? It was, it was crazy. Like, hi, I'm Al. I'm going to be your bud tender. I'm like, all right.
Oh, yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So that innovation came about because of COVID. So what's funny is there were a couple amazing things that happened to
COVID.
cannabis during COVID.
Yeah.
So first of all, it was declared as medical necessary. So they kept the cannabis businesses open.
That's right.
So people were not sure that was gonna happen. But when it did, all of a sudden it was like, wow, they kept the cannabis shops open. And because people were so penned in and so stressed out and worried and everything else, sales just went through the roof. And then the other thing is that they did curbside service because it was safer. And so they would bring it to your car and all that stuff. And for some people, that's continued as part of their normal business. And now they even have drive-throughs.
Oh,
that's funny you say that.
Delivery in Massachusetts, you can get it to your house.
And now delivery, yeah.
Because that's exactly when it was. It was COVID, because Deb wanted me to pick some stuff up for her to try. And I went through the drive-thru and took a COVID test at the drugstore, and right next door was the dope shop. I'm like, I'm this close. And the kid comes out to the car. I'm your bud tender. So
that's what we still call a lot of the customer service agents or team agents or whoever the people you talk to. They're still referred to as bud tenders. It just became one of those good names that just stuck.
Yeah.
You know his parents are watching, so he's got to blame it on his wife. Oh, my wife wanted me to. I wanted nothing to do with it, Mom and Dad.
No, I did go there so I could get some stuff for her. I had to sample everything, though.
That's right. I'll try it out. Wow. Well, I love that you've written a couple books and you got another one coming out. That's 4.
So back in October of 2018, I wrote the Essential Cannabis book, A Field Guide for the Curious. And that was my attempt to write a general book for anybody who wanted to know anything about cannabis. So it had things like terms and definitions. It covered how the plant grows. It covered difference between sativa and indica. Had a little bit of science in there. It had some botany. It had how it works in the body. There was a chapter on responsible consumption, section on social issues. And then I've always had a passion for cooking with cannabis, as you can tell. So I had a good section in the back about how to make infusions. And basically, cannabis loves fat. So if you can always infuse butter and different kinds of oils.
Pork chops.
Well, yeah, but it's the stuff you put on the pork chop. So it's all that fat. So even stuff like honey is great. Maple syrup is awesome. So basically you start the process and you infuse those oils at a certain dose. And so you know how much you're getting. And then you use that like you would anything else. So once I make my 2 cups of infused olive oil and I know what the dose is, I know if I put in 1 teaspoon into my gazpacho or whatever, I'm getting 10 milligrams of THC. So I have a pretty extensive section on how to make all those infusions. And then I had probably about 30 or 40 recipes that you could make in there as well. So that book was a lot of fun, and people did respond well to it. And it was actually a 4-color book, so it had beautiful photos in it.
Oh, yeah.
It had charts, it had summaries. And my wife made fun of me when it arrived at first because she said, you wrote a textbook. And we both came from the textbook industry, which is kind of funny. And when I looked at it, she's right, because there were summaries in there, basically. It was separated in little sections. There were profiles about people in the industry. I had about 20 interviews with people. So I actually had written an introductory cannabis textbook accidentally.
Now, where are your books available? Are they all available on Amazon? Okay.
Yeah, Amazon. And then I've been trying to get them more into dispensaries, which I am starting to make some headway on that.
Oh, great.
And then after I wrote the Essential Cannabis book, I spun off the Essential Cannabis Journal. And this book is primarily for medical patients and for people who are returning to cannabis. So it's really to help you be a smart cannabis consumer. So it does have some basic information in there. Again, some terms, definitions, methods of consumption.
There's a place to write your own notes in there too, I see.
Yeah, that's most of it. So
really?
So basically they have a lot of 2-page spreads where you can write, what did I purchase? Why was I purchasing it? What was my goal? What was the potency? When I used it, how did I feel within a few minutes? How did I feel in an hour, 4 hours, next day, etc.? And so a little bit like a wine journal in some ways, because I found a lot of people I talked to, they would kind of forget. They're like, well, I had this good thing at work.
Yeah, I
like,
don't remember.
Mine would be, do not eat the second brownie. The shit will kick in. Be patient.
Yeah, be patient. Patience is a virtue. Yeah.
So this is a good resource for someone who really wants to be a very good consumer and is concerned about their health. So that's what this little guy's for.
Brilliant.
And then after that, because I teach the preparation for cannabis internship class at Stockton, and I used a book called Cannabis Jobs for a number of years. And after a while, I thought, well, it's getting too dated. It's too anecdotal. It's missing a lot of information. I really need to write my own. And so I did. And so I started working with Roman and Littlefield. They were acquired by Bloomsbury, which is an international publisher in Britain, which is pretty awesome. And from there, this book really covers kind of the basics you need to enter the industry. So even if you read the first 3 chapters of this book, you would be well schooled in at least the basics of cannabis. So there's some history there, again, a little botany, a little science, a little medicine. And then there's a great chapter, at least I think, chapter 4, which is pivoting your career. So for a lot of people, they want to get in the cannabis industry and they've done other stuff. So, I mean, you were in logistics, which is interesting. So for you, I have a section in there about if you want to get into delivering logistics.
No,
here's
how to build a hidden compartment in the trunk of your car.
but it's more you developed a certain number of skills over a certain number of years, and how do you translate that into the cannabis industry? So how do you put that in a cover letter? How do you put that in a resume? How do you talk about that during an interview? You've been an entrepreneur. There's stuff on how to be a cannabis entrepreneur in here. So for people for college students, get the basics. You have to know the history. You have to know definitions. You have to know all that to get in. But then if you have other skills, read the chapter on pivoting your career. And then after that, the rest of the book is really all the jobs that are out there.
Yeah.
And it just goes on and on. And there's some really innovative things too. There's a lot of things in hemp. There's a lot of things in tourism and hospitality, which you'd be kind of surprised at. There's things in education. There's things in nonprofit. There's advocacy. And then towards the back, there's a bunch of resources. So if you like books, podcasts, all that stuff is listed in here. So really, that's all packed in here. And for those of you who have a niece, nephew, grandson, whatever, who might be going off to college, you might want to ask them if they want to look at cannabis. I mean, they oftentimes, what's kind of funny is a lot of the students that I have, some are very traditional. They're going to do well in anything. But I do have quite a number of lovable misfits. And they are students who've kind of been overlooked, I think, but who have some skills and interests, and they've been growing in their basement and all that. And they're trying to find their way, trying to find their niche. And that's what this book also helps them, lets them know you're part of a community, you are helping people, you have value. What you know matters, and let's turn that into a career. So that's what I try to do with them.
Don't grow up to be a dope. You can actually sell dope. You can be part of the industry of dope.
So will you sign those and leave those with us so we can give them away on?
I will absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
So
there you go.
These are for your audience. Absolutely.
Oh, that's so cool.
That would be great.
Christ, they'll be fighting for those. Our friggin' neighborhood will be fighting for them.
And then the fourth book that's coming out is the second edition of the Essential Cannabis book, which is out on 4/20/26. And the nice part is I got to learn a lot about what people want from the first edition. So there's now a separate chapter on CBD, because there's more people who want to use CBD for health and don't want to get high. Separate chapter on hemp, because there's much more potential in hemp and what it can do for sustainability and in different industries. I recast all the social issues, and actually my class helped me quite a bit. So I have a good FAQ section in the upcoming book, and it talks about stuff like gun ownership and cannabis.
Right.
So did you ever think those two things intersected?
No,
they do.
They do, and it's interesting in how they intersect. I also have a section in there about what to do if you have a police encounter and you have cannabis on you, either as a pedestrian or you're in your car.
run.
Don't eat the whole bag. Do not eat the whole bag. That's not an answer. Yeah.
So the great part was that the students really came up with some questions that they were really thinking about, or they're like, I'd really like somebody to answer this question for me.
That's smart. Yeah.
So that chapter I'm kind of particularly proud of, because it came from real life experience, and it's going to help some people and interesting. And then I've got, of course, new resources. I have new interviews in there. And again, it's going to be 4 colors, so it's going to be a very pretty book as well.
Nice.
And I've just expanded a lot of information. I have concentrates in there. First edition did not, because I didn't think people were ready for it, but I think people are ready for it now.
Yeah.
So we'll see. So I'm very excited for that book to come out too.
And what do you got there? Bandanas?
I do. So one of the very funny things, back in the day, I actually used to work in infant products. And so when I went to trade shows and everything else, I came back with so many samples of all kinds of infant stuff, which was great, because at that point we had a lot of young kids, and it was, we decorated the rooms with all the swag we got and all that. So now when I go to all these cannabis events, you can imagine the stuff that I get. Yeah. So yes, these are cannabis bandanas that I'll also leave for your audience.
Nice.
But then of course, I end up with, lighters, rolling papers, whatever. I don't think I'll ever buy another lighter in my life.
Yeah.
And funny part is that I actually see a lot of my former students who are now brand ambassadors and are at the events and all that.
That's so
and
cool. Yeah.
Like, Professor Mejia, come here. I gotta,
Yeah.
So it's good. It's just a lot of fun to see them doing their thing and excelling and getting swag. So now your audience gets some swag too.
That's so cool.
Fantastic.
Love
So
it.
if you thought this was just going to be a boring podcast about music and whatever, we told you, music and madness, we told you we're going to turn this place upside down. This is a good example of opening the doors up. Everybody knows cannabis is down here. It's out on the table. Now we've got a professor of marijuana. Do you have a master's degree in marijuana, or just is that available yet, the master's?
There are very few programs that have masters. Maryland has one in science, and that's kind of about it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very interesting how the degrees. Oh, there's one in entrepreneurship actually
Okay.
in New Jersey as well, because this is a music program that you all started with too. I did want to mention that there is such a connection with cannabis in music.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And so actually for Black History Month, NJ.com asked me to write a column about jazz and cannabis, because if you look at jazz and some of the lyrics,
Right.
it is so deep in their DNA. I mean, they said they use that for creativity. For a lot of them, they said that when they used cannabis, they felt like there was more space between the notes, so it helped them to pivot more with their creativity. Louis Armstrong used to always be a huge enthusiast, and some of the lyrics are so funny. There is one lyric where it talks about a guy dreaming about a blunt that's 5 feet long.
That's so funny because I would never think jazz. I would think reggae, but I would never think jazz.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh yeah, jazz was at the roots, and there was actually some characters that used to. There was this guy that used to serve all the jazz musicians called Mez. So if you ever see a product called Mez, that's based on him and working with all the different musicians. But yeah, that was a big part of it, and that's how a lot of it spread. So the funny thing is that a lot of cannabis came to the U.S. from Mexicans. So a quick little history lesson is around 1900, 1910, you had the Mexican Revolution, and a lot of Mexicans were coming into the U.S. to work in the fields, and what they brought with them was tradition of smoking cannabis. Before that, we were not smoking cannabis. Nobody had seen a joint. What we were doing is using tinctures.
Yep.
From about 1850. We were using drops that were quite popular, and you could go to a pharmacy between 1850 and about 1937, and you could actually get tincture that they would make for you. And there was this book called the U.S. Pharmacopoeia, and it had recipes on how to make cannabis tincture. And the other interesting thing about that was not only would they give you the recipe, but they also gave you a protocol that you had to try it out on a canine first. So for about the 30-year period, all these compounders and big companies like Eli Lilly were testing cannabis on dogs.
Really.
And so you get about a 40-pound dog.
Stone.
You would give
Get
them
'em high.
You would
high.
you'd give them product, and then you would see how they would respond. So the first thing was, so what would you imagine if you gave a dog cannabis? What's the first thing they're going to do?
Fall asleep.
No, that's later.
Or do
That's later, but
certain-
they'll
after,
get
they, after
that.
they eat.
That's a little
Yeah.
bit later too,
Oh,
but
that's
you're
right.
in there too. First thing is balance. So they'll make sure they're steady. They'll kind of stretch out a little bit. They'll go, and then sometimes there's movement. There's scratching. There's all kinds of stuff because they're a little disoriented. They're trying to get their thing going. Then the third thing is they sleep. The biggest thing is when they wake up. What would you expect them to do?
Want more.
Well, they can't talk, so we don't know that part. But what would they do after a nice sleep?
Have cottonmouth, probably.
Yeah.
Well, they're going to be hungry. So
Oh, they
big,
wanna
big
eat. Yeah,
thing,
wanna
big thing
eat.
is, are
Yeah.
they going to eat, and then can they move normally, and is their function normal? If they go through all those 4 steps, then you're okay to give that to the human. So isn't that funny that if I'm
Yeah.
a compounder back in 1920 and you come in and you say I want cannabis, I say all right, I'll make it up. And there's my Airedale Terrier, and
Yep.
and we have an interesting evening together. And then the next day you come back and I give you
Here you
your
go.
cannabis.
My dog was fine.
So
You can have it.
So I have a couple of those old books that have the recipes in there, but it's just fascinating. So anyway, so between about 1850 and 1937 is when marijuana was heavily taxed and pretty much kind of out. It was all just tincture. So then the Mexicans came in around 1900, 1910, smoking joints. That's the first time people had really seen that and took to it. And then that traveled to a lot of the inner cities and jazz musicians. So then you had browns and blacks who were very tied to cannabis. Then you had this character called Harry Anslinger, who basically was in charge of alcohol prohibition. And then when that was repealed, he needed something to go after. He tried to go after heroin first, didn't really find much purchase.
Yeesh.
So then he went after cannabis. He rebranded it as marijuana. And then he went after a whole racial campaign and basically got it,
Illegal.
illegal. And then also then it started with the imprisonment. And then, of course, that imprisonment went. And so anyway, the cannabis history I just find to be unbelievable, fascinating. And if you know it, you can also see what the injustices are and what we need to start fixing.
Well, I don't know if we'll ever have another professor in here, but
Yeah,
the one that we have knows his shit.
that's it.
Holy
That's it.
smokes. You know your stuff, Rob. You definitely do.
Rob, man, we appreciate you coming on, and I hope our listeners are going to take and read your book. I hope they can buy it on Amazon, right? On 4/20/26, your next book will be out.
Yes.
So it's going to take you a while between reading this and making a bunch of recipes.
Yep.
You
know what?
You won't need that book till next year.
I say he comes back, we set up a table, we film it, we all eat, and we have conversation.
How about Thanksgiving?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love it.
How about tonight?
Actually,
Tonight.
we call that Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving. There you go.
And I actually wrote an article for NJ.com about Thanksgiving as well.
Really?
And why it's so popular. So Thanksgiving is one of the most popular days that people will imbibe in cannabis. Here's a little bit of trivia for you too. Funerals. At funerals, you cannot believe the amount of use of cannabis.
Really?
Well, it makes sense. You're grieving.
Yeah.
You're very distraught. You're anxious, and so yeah.
Yeah.
And that goes back to, again, I know being too professorial, but it goes back to the Scythians who used to celebrate their dead, and they built a tent, and they would have a big hot rock, and they'd throw in bales of cannabis, and they'd all gather in there.
I think we start that back up.
The original hot box, but they did that to grieve the warriors, and they found a whole bunch of mounds that had all these basic tents that they used to gather in for funerals. So I do think it is interesting that we're still doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Still trying to handle our emotions with plants.
Yeah.
Rob, again, man, we appreciate you coming on, and I think we definitely need to bring him back.
100%.
Yeah.
We'll have our neighborhood down. We'll have a meal of 30 people. We'll cook all day. We'll have Rob do the cooking.
There you go.
We'll do the eating.
Sounds good to me. Sounds good to me. All right, John.
Totally do that.
That was awesome.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah, thanks.
Great
That's a wrap.
episode.